Welcome to ILTV's Israel Weekly. Our main topics today: Hamas and Israel trade blows in one of the biggest stirrings since the 2014 war, Operation Protective Edge. And thousands gather in protest as the nation-state bill advances through the Knesset. Joining me in the studio is Deputy Speaker of the Knesset, MK חיליק, Yaakov Ner David, an International Council member from the New Israel Fund, and Dr. Martin Sherman, the founder and executive director of the Israel Institute for Strategic Studies. Thank you all very much for coming in, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, now to begin, violence in Gaza flared dramatically following the injuring of an IDF officer with a grenade near the Gaza border. Israeli forces immediately responded harshly with some of the most widespread bombardments since the 2014 war, and reportedly striking well over 40 Hamas infrastructure targets. Several Palestinians were reported injured and at least 2 killed in the strikes. Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad militants in turn fired over 200 mortar shells and rockets at Israeli border communities. And in Sderot, a family of 4 was injured by shrapnel when a mortar fell in their yard, and damages to property was widespread as well, both from mortar fire and incendiary kites and balloons. A ceasefire was later confirmed, but then broken just hours later. It's holding again now, but still, many are left with little hope that it will hold for long.
בוקר טוב. במהלך השבת פגענו בחמאס באופן משמעותי וקשה. המדיניות שלנו ברורה, מי שפוגע בנו, אנחנו פוגעים בו ובעוצמה רבה. זה מה שעשינו אתמול. צה"ל הנחית על החמאס המכה הקשה ביותר מאז צוק איתן. אני מקווה שהם קלטו את המסר. אם לא, נקלטו אותו בהמשך. שמעתי שאומרים שישראל הסכימה להפסקת אש שתאפשר את המשך טרור האש של העפיפונים והבלונים. זה לא נכון. איננו מוכנים לקבל שום התקפות נגדנו ونجيب بيتين.
بالتأكيد لا أحد يتمنى الحرب ولا أحد يتمنى الدماء، الحرب مكلفة جدا، لا أحد يطلبها ولا أحد يتمناها، كل ما نتمناه لغزة كما نتمناه لأنفسنا نحن 2 مليون فلسطيني يعيش في غزة هو السلام، وأن نعيش بسلام. لا نريد أي حروب، لا نسعى لأي حروب، نحن فرضت علينا.
Now, Dr. Sherman, I'd like to start with you. How long do you think the ceasefire will hold to begin with?
Not long. It's a short answer, but I think it was attributed to Einstein, who once said the 2 things are infinite: the universe and human stupidity, and he's not sure about the universe. What you're seeing here is a total collapse of the land for peace doctrine, exposing the imbecility of thinking that you can actually appease tyranny with political concessions and territorial withdrawals. And the point is, and I've said it before on several programs before, in the end, there will either be Arabs in Gaza or Jews in the Negev. There won't be both. And what you're seeing is that the government has basically, up until now, legitimized arson, because since May, the Palestinians have been burning Israeli fields, and it's only a matter of good fortune, not good intention, that dozens of people haven't been consumed by the flames. So what you're seeing is unacceptable and inexplicable impotence on the part of the government. And it's until they manage to extricate themselves from the lunacy of the 2-state doctrine and the land for peace doctrine, this is going to carry on and on and on until Jews start evacuating the Negev.
Knesset member, how would you respond?
My colleague here mentioned Albert Einstein. He had another saying. He said, you can't do something again and again and expect a different result. Mm-hmm. And this is exactly what Israel is doing with Hamas. We have a terror organization that controls Gaza. We never made a long-term policy. We never made a long-term thinking of how to, for example, cooperate with Ramallah or the Arab states or Egypt about the militarized Gaza. We're just chirurgically taking care of Hamas, mainly failing to do so, mainly failing to find alternative, and this is
what does that mean? Operationally, what does that mean?
What I mean is, look, there is a lot of Arab states, I'm speaking now general, that want to cooperate with Israel about the Israeli-Palestinian.
So cooperate.
No, it's not that easy, because it's not that easy, because we have another leaders, a minister of defense that's saying that within 48 hours he will do that, and within 48 days he will do this, and it's not happening. There is a terror organization that control Gaza. He's not in any touch with what's going on in Ramallah and with the government of the Palestinian Authority. Israel cannot chirurgically take care of Gaza.
I agree with you.
So this is exactly what I'm saying. And I think that we should, I'm always saying that as we always must have a very sophisticated and accurate missiles, we have to have a sophisticated and accurate diplomacy. And on diplomacy, with the Gaza issue and with Hamas issue, we are failing again and again. And this is an ultra-right-wing government that said many times that they will destroy Hamas. So destroying Hamas only by weapon, apparently, it's not the right thing. We have to sit with Egypt, with moderate Sunnite states, and with Mr. Abbas, as weak as he may be, and think how we demilitarize Hamas and killing Hamas not only by weapon, but also politically.
We'll take Hamas's place.
If you ask me, I think that the PLO should enter again.
My question is, first let's hear your response.
Yeah, I mean, you had said something quite dramatic earlier, which is you can't have Arabs in Gaza and Jews in the Negev. I think if that actually is our choice, then that's quite sad. And I don't think that's our choice, and I don't think you agree either in saying we're going to vacate 2 million people from Gaza. If that's your, so then I think it should be.
But why not?
1.5, whatever number you want to throw out. But I think exactly as Knesset member Bar said, we have been using language and actions, as Prime Minister Netanyahu just said, saying we're going to hit them hard, we're going to hit them hard, and we keep hitting them hard. And we've heard the same thing over and over again, that we need to hit people hard, and then they'll get the message. And if they'll get the message later. Hitting hard has a place, perhaps, but it runs out of its usefulness. And we have to get more creative very quickly.
Well, so that brings me to maybe my earlier point is what I was going to ask you, Knesset member, is how would you then translate what you said earlier into policy? How would you demilitarize Hamas without taking forces into Gaza?
So we have to look at the bigger problem. The bigger problem is we have no horizon toward the two-state solution. We have no horizon toward creating any kind of end to this conflict. Our government is not speaking with the Palestinian. Our government is not speaking with the moderate Arab world. It's not what we used to see before, that all the Arabs are the same and all of them want to kill us and kick us. I think that sometimes you need to see the enemy of your enemy as friends. And today, unfortunately, Muslims kill Muslims more than they are killing Jews or Christians. And we have to understand there is a huge tension inside the Arab world, and there is a huge will within the moderate, mainly Sunnite Arab world to maybe cooperate with Israel against dark, barbaric forces like Al-Qaeda and ISIS and whatever. And we're not seeing it. We're not dealing with it enough.
Hamas isn't going to be a willing participant, do you think? Will they?
Hamas, I think that in an overall solution to the Israeli-Arab conflict, Hamas will have to accept the verdict of the Arab world. We have an Arab peace initiative lying on our table for 15 years, offered to us by 22 Arab states and 57 Muslims. We never replied.
Of course we
I'm not saying
reply.
to say yes.
And just
we
as
never
well.
replied.
And just as well, because that Arab initiative involves four elements. One.
I didn't say that we should accept the Arab peace initiative as a whole.
But that's the initiative. You want to leave the Golan?
No.
You want to leave
Look,
the Golan?
if I was Prime Minister tomorrow, I wouldn't say yes
Jerusalem?
to the Arab peace initiative. Don't put words in my mouth.
So what?
But I will tell you, you can say yes.
To what?
I wouldn't.
To what?
To the Arab peace initiative. You can say no, and you can say yes, but. But even this, yes, but, we never replied to the Arab peace initiative that can be a part of a solution also to Gaza as part of a two-state solution.
Absolutely. What part of the Arab initiative do you accept? The four parts: leaving the Golan, dividing Jerusalem, going back to the 67 borders, accepting the refugees, and...
Are you speaking with Arab leaders? Are you speaking with our... Okay,
no,
I'm speaking to them.
Are you reading the Arab peace plan?
No, I read the peace plan, and I told them many times that Israel will not accept the Arab peace plan. But they say, okay, give us our remarks. We can revise it. They offered to revise it, but we never...
Revise it to what?
Look, if it's 67 borders, it can be 67 borders with land swap. If they think they will...
Land swap? Explain what land are you going to swap?
Mutual agreed upon land swap that they agreed before.
What does that mean?
If this is the discussion, I will be happy to continue with it. Again, no. If this is a discussion, I can tell you we shouldn't accept the Arab Peace Initiative as it is. Okay? But we should answer, we should reply, we should have some kind of conversation with the moderate Arab world. There is no other solution for this.
Jacob Nilden?
The Iron Wall.
Dr. Sherman, I'd like to hear your response, Jacob.
Right. So there's this, the mantra of that the two-state solution doesn't work or isn't going to work. Unfortunately, then there's a vacuum of what will work. if the what will work is let's just status quo, and we've discussed this before, then that's not a very good idea either.
I agree.
Okay, so we need to get out of the status quo. We need to get out of bombs falling this way and us then needing to bomb that way. So the question is, how do you move forward? That's it.
So,
And what's
do you
the
have an
answer?
answer?
What's the answer?
I think certainly radical diplomacy is part of it. I would go much further than what you're saying in terms of discussing the Arab Peace Initiative on the table. But other things that we can talk about, whether it's refugees, you can say, yes, they're refugees. Does that mean I need to say exactly where they're going to go back to and so on and so forth? No. Everything is a discussion. But unless you start the discussion, if you take these two positions, you would talk about Jerusalem being divided. And it's even in the next discussion we're going to be having because it's in the proposed law. You have a quote, united Jerusalem. Where, which, Piskat Ze'ev, what are we talking about? So I think once you say, let's discuss it, and whether it's
Are you prepared to have a mini Gaza in East Jerusalem, mortar range from your parliament? Really? I mean, why would you think it? Why do you think?
Why should it be the case? We withdraw
Why shouldn't it be?
unilaterally
Why
from
shouldn't it
Gaza.
be
I
the
was
case?
against the
Why
unilateral.
shouldn't Good.
But it shouldn't be the case in Jerusalem and not in the West Bank. It should be under an agreement. This is a whole different story.
But Gaza was initially the withdrawal from Gaza came from a negotiated agreement called Oslo. Called Oslo. Yes,
it came from an abandonment. It came from an abandonment.
In 2005, not in 1993.
Well, unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut it off here. I know that we could go into this topic a lot more, but we do need to move on to the nation-state bill. So, upwards of 3,000 Israelis took part recently in a demonstration in Tel Aviv against the advancement of the nation-state bill. The bill seeks to enshrine the country's Jewish identity into Israel's basic laws. But critics, including President Rivlin, Attorney General Mandelblit, and even the Knesset's own legal advisor, say parts of the bill may actually harm the Jewish state. Organizers of the recent protests said in a statement that, quote, the law of division and discrimination that this government is promoting, which they call the nation-state bill, will leave a great many of us out of towns, with admission committees, out of fair treatment in the courts, out of citizenship, out of democracy. To this we will not agree, end quote. Meanwhile, speaking at the state memorial for Zionist leader Zev Jabotinsky, the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu defended the bill.
ז'בוטינסקי דבק בערך בסיסי אחד, שמירת הייחוד הלאומי שלנו במולדתנו. הוא לא האמין שנוכל לשמר את הייחוד הלאומי שלנו במקום אחר זולת מולדתנו. זה הבסיס לכל השאר. הוא אמר שעלינו לשמר את הייחוד הלאומי שלנו כאן, בארץ. והעיקרון הזה הוא גם מה שמנחה אותנו בהתוויית חוק הלאום, שאני מקווה להעבירו בקרוב בכנסת. בדמוקרטיה הישראלית נמשיך להבטיח את זכויות הפרט והקבוצה. אלה ימשיכו להיות מובטחות. אבל זכויות יש גם לרוב. והרוב מכריע. הרוב המכריע בעם רוצה להבטיח את אופייה היהודי של מדינתנו לדורות. השילוב הזה של זכות הלאום וזכויות הפרט, השילוב הזה הוא המשמעות של המילים מדינה יהודית ודמוקרטית, וז'בוטינסקי ללא ספק האמין בעיקרון הזה, קידש אותו, נלחם עבורו, ואנחנו ממשיכים אותו.
Knesset Member Bauer, I'd like to start with you. What are your initial reactions to the nation-state bill, and do you agree whether or not it's racist?
It's a very unnecessary and coward law, and it takes me back to the previous issue. When you don't have a solution for the Israeli-Palestinian issue, and you are leading us with a very defeatist attitude of managing the conflict, when you're leading us to a one-state solution, to a binational state, then you need coward laws to defend you. I think that, and I'm happy to see that not only the center-left in Israel thinking that this law is unnecessary, to say the least, of course, but also Rivlin and Benny Begin, the son of Menachem Begin. I don't know what Jabotinsky would have said if he was alive, but Prime Minister Netanyahu is speaking on his behalf, it's okay. But I think that when you think that one day you will have one state from the river to the sea, you will need laws to protect the Jewish minority, because then we will not be a majority. I think that the solution that the central left believes in, the two-state solution, is de facto the nation-state bill, because it means that we will have here a Jewish majority forever and ever, and it will be the nation-state of the Jewish people. And then you can...
How can you preserve a Jewish majority in a country with a growing Arab population? I mean, that's a very real possibility that eventually, if you extrapolate...
So you are asking me this when you're talking about 80-20. right now. Okay, this is not a threatening minority. One-state solution, which right now already, while we are speaking, we're 50-50 between the river and the sea. This is the end of the Zionist dream as we want it. This is to lose the core principle of having. It's absolutely true. You will bring me now demographic. You know what? It's 60-40. Okay, this is a threatening minority, even 60-40. And I think, and so the issue is to be brave and courageous and go to a two-state solution, to divorce from the Palestinian rather than continue with this twisted marriage with them. And this is the real nation-state bill.
But I think also if you look at the actual law, it's just an invitation to disaster. Almost every single line of it.
Well, I would strongly disagree.
I understand, but let me just finish my point. I mean, it brings us right back to the questions of who is a Jew and so on, which successive Israeli governments have only managed to make everybody feel terrible about those questions and have kowtowed to certain very specific coalition partners. I don't see how this law helps anyone, whether it's in the diaspora or a Jew here in Israel, feel any better. 70 years ago, we created a Jewish state. We had a Declaration of Independence. I'm somebody who grew up well after that. Nobody needed to bring me this law to tell me that we succeeded in terms of the Zionist enterprise.
But it will assist the extreme margin of the coalition to feel better.
I have the law in front of me here. Yeah. I promise you that if I take every single clause in it and separate it out, 85% to 90% of the Israeli population, apart from perhaps the Arabs, would agree with it. You know, I find the opposition to this law quite astounding and quite disturbing, because I think it shows the failure of the national will of the Jewish people. You know, at this table, 3/4 of the people sitting at this table weren't born here. They came here only because it was a Jewish state. Now, I think that
we're promoting Jewish states in the labor. We believe in a Jewish nation state.
So why do you? So I understand what you
object
to in
because
the law.
This law takes rights of other people and heard the
how
second.
can you possibly say that?
Look,
it doesn't no right.
Don't ask me. I'm from the Labor Party. Ask Ruby Rivlin, our president. Ask Benny Begin why they're objecting to it.
Here's the law.
Yeah.
One single clause in this law that says that non-Jews. Of course.
Hold on.
Just one last sentence. The Declaration of Independence, which is basically a mirror image of this.
No, it's not. It's not. I wish it was the case.
Promises civil rights, civil equality for non-Jews, but only national rights to Jews. And this is what this says.
So why do we need it?
I think we're reading two different laws.
Why would you say that? Why would you cooperate? Why would you cooperate with the most
I'm asking you a separate question. I'm asking you, why do we need it right now, in this period in time, this week?
Why would you say that it's Judophobic?
Why do we need it?
Why would you?
I'm just asking. I think that's a good point, though. Why is it necessary to pass it
right now?
Because I think there are many elements within the Israeli society who would much rather have a state of all its citizens, which neither you nor myself nor you would have immigrated to if that was the case. And I think there's an ongoing process of trying to undermine the Jewish character of the state. And look at the third largest party in the Knesset. The third largest party in the Knesset is an anti-Zionist party composed of different fractions, from communists to Muslim fundamentalists, and the only thing that unites them is their anti-Zionism. So I think this is an important document.
It should be. Explain to
me why.
Okay, so hold on.
What clause
I will tell you, because it proves us that this binational state, this one state that none of us would immigrate to in the 40s or in the 30s. In this kind of state, we will need bills to protect the Jewish majority or the Jewish minority. But I'm saying if one day we will divorce from the Palestinians to two states and we'll have her a non-threatening minority and a Jewish majority, this is the real Zionism. Not to have this or that bill to protect us.
You brought up Einstein's quote about trying the same things over and over and getting the same result. Why don't you apply that to the quarter century of efforts to try and separate the two-state solution.
I can give you an analysis of why did we fail and who was the blame. It was partially our blame and other blame. But you know what? So we tried 3-4 times and failed. So what?
Times, quarter of a century.
So
how
what?
many people died?
You know, I want to tell you one thing. I hosted here Bertie Ahern, that was the Prime Minister of Ireland, and he solved with Tony Blair the conflict. And he told me, you know what, חיליק? It took us between 700 years to 1,000 years, depend from where you count, to solve the Northern Irish conflict. You can wait. You can wait and solve it, but you can solve it after 70 years with a real courageous leadership. And this is right now what we don't have from both. Absolutely, like Yitzhak Rabin, like Menachem Begin, and like others. Absolutely.
Instead of bringing this back to the Israeli-Palestinian issue, which I happen to agree with what you're saying, but instead of bringing it back to that, let's talk about just legislating Jewish character. Do we want to legislate the Jewish character of the state? If so, oh my goodness, we need to spend several lifetimes all together in the Beit Midrash discussing what does it mean, the Jewish character. Let's go. I'm happy to go line by line. I did read the law. I did read the law beforehand.
I would actually love to go line by line with that as well. Unfortunately, we have run out of time.
Not even one sentence?
What we have time left for is the silver lining. Yeah, the good word of the day. Jacob, would you like to start us off with something positive, something to end on that is not, devastating news for the world?
Thank goodness the World Cup is not being played between anybody who we need to worry about in terms of, the Jewish people being to blame. So I hope either one of them win.
Right. Well, I'll add on to him the fact that so many bars and restaurants tonight are going to be showing the World Cup shows at least that the population here doesn't feel a sense of existential threat. So
yeah, that's true.
Exactly.
I will connect the World Cup to our subject. I launched today, together with the ILC, a campaign to the world, to our fellow parliamentarians, about the fire kites, the terror fire kites, telling them that more than 6,000 soccer fields was burned in Israel, in Gaza, because of these kites, and they should understand it's a terror, and we demand a reaction by our foreign colleagues from parliaments around the world to do something against this barbaric and terror regime in Gaza. So I hope they will listen to our campaign.
I hope so as well. Thank you all very much for coming back in. Knesset member חיליק בר, Jacob Nil-David, Dr. Martin Sherman, thank you all so much for joining us today in the show. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have today for ILTV's Israel Weekly. Again, I'd love to thank all of you for tuning in as well. Remember to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News and on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Aaron Porras, and we'll see you next week.